This painting wasn't supposed to be anything other than a study. I have had a larger project sitting on the back burner that I told myself I was going to try to tackle this summer. Well, it's summer, and I'm just now finishing this painting that I started back in January. If you are an artist, or even if you are, and just so happen to have your life in better order than me, you may be asking, what happened? Truthfully, I don't really know. Well, I do, but I don't really know. But I do know that I am proud of myself for having finished it anyway. I want to mention this because, this is an art video at the end of the day. A little bit about my process because I'm horrible at trying to make content, I guess. This painting is done in oils with the 333 medium, or I guess it can also be called the 3/3 mix, which is equal parts solvent, oil, and varnish. I use linseed oil, turpentine, and Demar varnish on a 12 by 12 stretched canvas. I used 4 layers of gesso without sanding and a light blue coal erase sketch on top that I then sprayed with fixative. With this painting, I did an acrylic base with medium magenta and a tiny bit of cadmium red deep. Problem though, I watered it down way too much and tried lifting some of it with a paper towel, and it ended up giving the canvas a really weird texture that upset me for a while, but it's fine. At the time, things weren't going so great for me. I should have just done a flat wash instead and let that dry, but I didn't. And my medium was very runny, and it can be very runny if you aren't careful with it, which I wasn't in the beginning, but it does work well when you are gentle with it, which I later learned. It's okay. My color palette consists of Van Dyke Brown, which I used for the underpainting, Payne's Gray, Burnt Umber, Titanium White, Yellow Ochre, Alizarin Crimson, Windsor Yellow, and Permanent Orange. I'm still relatively new to oils, but I fell in love with the medium while I was in college, and most of my techniques come from what I learned. The reason why I stopped this painting was under the guise of letting it dry, but also because I was scared to tackle the jewelry part, which is what you are watching now. I spent some time practicing. Some of it went well, some of it didn't, leading to a bunch of frustration that I just had to move on. And then I worked on other projects until June rolled around and it was time to finally finish this painting. I had originally recorded some of the beginning process on my phone, but I thought, I wasn't going to use the footage and deleted it because I'm so fucking smart, right? Anyways, but this is me picking up on the most daunting part, the one that I dreaded and truthfully led me to put my brushes down and not pick them up, and my painting was just staring at me on my wall. It's not perfect, but I am still happy with the results. I did darken up the background afterwards by doing another layer that isn't shown at the end, and the entire time that I was painting during this footage, there was a spider above me that only increased my anxiety further. Like I mentioned before, this was supposed to be a study. To me, studies are a way for me to zoom in on one particular thing, observe and practice until I'm comfortable with whatever it is that I'm trying to study or trying to learn. Typically, they don't take me that long. It's something that I like to do in one or a few sessions so that I can move on with my other goals. Bottom line, it's about practice before the real thing. Most of my studies thus far have all been to help myself towards my greater goal, my largest project to date. It was born out of wanting to challenge myself to paint on a much larger scale. When I first had the idea and bought the canvas, I realized I didn't feel ready at all in my skills to jump onto that painting. And there was this part of me that felt like maybe I should. Maybe I should just say fuck it and do it because that way I would learn within the process itself. But at the same time, knowing myself and how I operate, I just couldn't bring myself to do that. And maybe in a way, I stunted my own growth, but at the same time, I feel like I have learned so much just from all the studies that I have done leading up to this larger project that I'm only mentioning because it just makes sense as to why I'm painting this painting in the first place. So, yeah, without getting too much into it, I really got into rendering horses. I know this is not a horse. I was doing studies, sketches, charcoal pieces. I really wanted to understand how to depict a horse because this piece, my large one, is going to involve one. Additionally, some kind of jewelry and armor in that realm. Mind you, I've never really tackled either one in any medium, so I had to take a step back. That's where I stumbled upon this reference photo, and it felt exactly what I was looking for. And you would think that at this point I'd go straight into painting, right? No. It sat in my folder on Pinterest with other potential painting references for months before I finally decided to paint it. I had plans for myself. I was going to be productive and stick to my goals and meet my deadlines. I had plans for each season because I can't plan my life a year in advance. That I just can't do that. So, what I thought to myself at the beginning of the year was that my late winter goals from January to February were to finish up old projects that I can continue fresh for the new year. My spring goals were to do light and color studies and really finalize my idea so that my summer goal could be to try and finally paint this painting that I have had floating in my mind since I graduated college 2 years ago. Yet somehow, none of what I hoped for really happened because I realized way too late that I'm too ambitious with the little time I truly have. I can only do so much in a week while also working a part time job. And on top of that, I can only paint so much before needing the paint to dry before continuing to work on it. I also realized that it's difficult for me to stick to a project before getting distracted with a new one. That cycle would continue until I find that I have 10 unfinished projects staring back at me, hoping to be finished one day. Some became abandoned, others forgotten, but a few still float about in the back of my mind, only adding to the mess in my head. It's July now, some weeks after finally finishing this painting. Although my goals and plans didn't come together the way I wanted, I'm still not giving up on myself. Just like I didn't give up on this painting when I started it back in January. All of this to say is that I hate ruling my life based around productivity. Around late February is when I feel like I've started to fall into a slump in reading, in my art, and in my life. Things felt bleak because I wasn't making any new accomplishments. I wasn't doing anything that I thought was of value at the time. I was going through this back and forth of trying to grasp my life by the reins, but somehow it kept slipping through my fingers and I would just let life happen to me. I grew upset with my situation and let that feeling rule me, even though so many sparks of happiness were around me. But I was too muddled in my misery to pay attention. Maybe I'm over exaggerating, but it definitely felt that way. Nothing was going as planned. I couldn't seem to commit to anything. The little time I made for myself was spent doing nothing while trying to do something that just made me feel like I wasn't wasting my time. And then May rolled around, and I discovered one of my favorite books that completely changed my mindset. If you thought this video was just about art, well, you're also getting a book review. I highly recommend A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. It follows a teen monk named Dex and a wild built robot named Moscap in a sci-fi utopian world, exploring conversations about humanity and the concept of just existing, the themes of gender and the lack of it, how grand life is in its simplicity, that it's a shame humanity distills it to a singular purpose that forces them to conform to a monotony, all the while watching Dex and Moscap's friendship bloom. I loved it so much I could not stop thinking about the dynamic between the two characters, the lush and whimsical world, the existential thoughts that rise up with the conversations explored in this less than 200-page book. What really hit me was that Dex was like a cloudy mirror looking back at me. I found myself relating a lot to them. The only difference is that I continue to let the fear of the unknown rule over me rather than just taking the leap, even if I don't know where I'm going. Dex didn't know where they were going, and yet they still went. Having a purpose in a non-capitalist utopian society, aside from my qualms with that given the unfortunate reality of the world I live in today, Dex's society looks surreal and potentially attainable. But even then, we are still tired at the end of the day because we aren't existing just to exist anymore. The ego-crushing experience of having to explain to their entire sharp-eyed family that this plan they'd laboriously pitched as the right thing to do actually had them feeling quite intimidated after a grand total of one try, and that they now, at the age of 29, would like very much to return to the safe shelter of their childhood for an indefinite amount of time until they figured out just what the hell they were doing. I'm not 29, but this still strikingly rings true to me. I feel like I haven't started and am scared to continue because I feel like it isn't even working. I have gone as far as actually trying and accomplishing one thing, but because the results aren't immediate, I feel like it's not working. But Dex didn't stop. They kept going and became quite the renowned tea monk. If I give up now, I won't go anywhere. But I also see myself when, even after all of that and finally succeeding, Dex still feels empty or like something is missing, and what they look forward to the most is being alone in bed. I constantly ask myself if something is wrong with me, like Dex, because why am I so tired all of the time? Why is it that the most appealing thing to me right now is curling up in bed, laying under soft sheets, and closing my eyes? I feel like this sentiment is best summed up by this quote. All I have is right now, and at some point, I'll just end, and I can't predict when that will be. And if I don't use this time for something, if I don't make the absolute most of it, then I'll have wasted something precious. Sometimes something new and scary is what we need, and other times it's just simply rest. And that can be the scariest to admit. As someone who falls into the constant cycle of existential dread, I felt seen with Dex. Why can't I exist without my life revolving around productivity? Because productivity means accomplishment, and without accomplishment, isn't it all meaningless? Moscap. Oh, how I love you, Moscap. Beautifully rebuttals this in these statements that I have collected into one quote. You keep asking why your work is not enough, and I don't know how to answer that because it is enough to exist in the world and marvel at it. You don't need to justify that or earn it. You are allowed to just live. That is all most animals do. You're talking like you should be wearing this instead. Moscap opened the panel in its chest and pointed at the factory plate, Westcon Textiles Inc. I have wants and ambitions too, sibling Dex, but if I fulfill none of them, that's okay. Do you not find consciousness alone to be the most exhilarating thing? Here we are in this incomprehensibly large universe, on this one tiny moon around this one incidental planet, and in all the time this entire scenario has existed, every component has been recycled over and over and over again into infinitely incredible configurations, and sometimes those configurations are special enough to be able to see the world around them. You and I, we're just atoms that arrange themselves the right way, and we can understand that about ourselves. Is that not amazing? Then how, Dex said, how does the idea of maybe being meaningless sit well with you? Moscap considered, because I know that no matter what, I'm wonderful. Sorry if that was a lot, but it's such a great book, and I really recommend it, especially if at any point in this video you have found yourself relating to me and my experience. Either way, I don't know what's in store for me by doing this, but I just want to share my art. I come to this crossroads often where I feel like maybe I should delete everything and try something else, but I've only just started, so why give up now? If you stuck around this far, thank you for watching this whole video. I really don't know. I feel like it's all over the place, but maybe it's not. If you related to any of it, just know that you aren't alone. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Create something, pick up a book, pick up a psalm for the wild built because it's so fucking good. Put a pencil in your hands and just doodle. Like, it doesn't matter, just do something. But yeah, don't let social media fool you into thinking that every single waking hour of your day has to be fulfilling and productive, because I think we should just be allowed to exist.